you don't have to eat any carbohydrates ever. Because our bodies will actually produce them. There's a process called neoglycogenesis, which simply means that the proteins that we eat, any excess proteins, or our body can pull some aside, can actually break those down and change them into sugar molecules for us. So it's pretty amazing. We can't make proteins in our body, and we can't make fats. We have to actually consume them, but not so much with carbohydrates, which is why I do consume carbohydrates, but they're a nutrient-dense form. I get most of my carbohydrates out of the vegetables and fruits that I eat instead of refined grains and sugars and what I would just deem crap. Okay, so by the time our chyme leaves that first part of your small intestine, then it's broken down the carbohydrates into glucose molecules. It's broken down the protein into amino acids and polypeptides so we can grow and repair our bodies. And also the fats are broken down into fatty acids and also the glycerol molecules that I was talking about. Which is the sugar. So that goes through a process called peristalsis, and it just moves it along. My sons love the jejunum, so it's going to move into the jejunum. And the insides of your small intestines have these little millions of little villi and microvilli. They're like little fingers, like little hairy fingers that can grab these nutrient-rich molecules and push them into the bloodstream. Pretty amazing. So like the glucose, amino acids, short chain fatty acids are carried by the villi into the capillaries and into the liver. So the liver can distribute it from there. And then your long chain fatty acids, they require bile for absorption, and then they're going to end up in your lymphatic system. Fascinating. Some of this might be over your head, and that's okay. But if you can walk away from just some big ideas today, that would be really great. The big ideas might be that the decisions that you make in your head really matter for your digestion and your overall health. And that digestion process starts north, right? It starts up there in your head. Your stomach's not going to tell you what to do. You really need to choose to make a decision about it. And then the next big idea is understanding how important your stomach and your pancreas and your gallbladder are for your digestive system. And whenever I say gallbladder, I automatically just kind of think liver to two. They're kind of little Bobsy twins there for me. And a lot of liver supplements and supports are definitely going to directly affect your gallbladder. And so now that our chyme is moving through our small intestine is not too big. If you start by your right hip, where it's really kind of pokey right there, your ASIS, and you just trace it up towards your right ribs, that's your ascending, right? It's going to come over and it's going to go to the left a little bit and it's going to go down. And so, I mean, it's kind of this like cool little shape, and it doesn't take a very long trip in your large intestine, and before your chyme is completely doled out, all the nutrients are doled out, and by the time it gets to your large intestine or colon, all it's doing is just kind of squeezing out any excess water. It's gonna take with it the waste, the ingestible fibers, any leftover bile, water, sloughed off cells, and they go through the ileocecal valve and then work their way through the large intestine. So it's kind of a cool process. And I gotta tell you though, with my clients and I, we talk about their poop a lot, because your poop is telling you what has happened from the time it was in your mouth. And if you're seeing undigested food in your poop, that's a big indicator. If you see a lot of mucus in your poop, if it's too dark, if it's floating, if it's in like little chunks, like little rabbit poops, or how hard you're straining, all of this matters. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk to you guys today, as part of that empowering and part of understanding your health is even the animal kingdom. We've got dogs over here, and a dog, you see a dog poop and they turn around and they look at it. what's going on? For some reason, they turn around and look at it. They might even smell it, and it just makes me wonder about, are they doing what we should be doing, or we should be doing what they're doing as far as taking a little bit of a look there? I know sometimes I see my dog, and I recently heard one of my instructors talk about, dogs and how they might check out their poop and then go and maybe eat some grass, or something. So I always thought that maybe they had a stomach ache. Well, maybe they're trying to avoid, having a stomach ache. But when your digestive system is not functioning right, boy, your whole world can collapse. It's just, it can affect your sleep, your hormones, your energy levels, your aches and pains, your ability to recover from any workouts. It affects your anxiety levels or your ability to handle stress. And so that's why I know that you're listening to these podcasts, is because you really care and you really do want to be empowered and you really do want to make some good decisions. So what are you going to put to work today? The food choices, we've already talked about that. Taking your time and chewing, we've talked a lot about that. That's why I like to repeat things, making sure you're in more of a parasympathetic or relaxing or resting environment to eat your meals. And then to pay attention to how things feel. So if you notice that after you eat certain foods, almost immediately or within an hour or two, you get bloating up by your xiphoid process, which, your CPR spot. Whoa, what's up with that? Why am I bloating there? Or if you're noticing down underneath your belly button that when you lay down and bend your knees and you kind of palpate along in there, that it just feels really congested or tight. Or maybe, you feel like you should go to the bathroom, have a bowel movement, but you just don't, or you can't, or you strain too much. It's not all about just having fiber. There's two different kinds of fibers. Insoluble fiber is gonna make everything go really fast through your digestive system, and then that it's in and of itself is going to be excreted as feces. But soluble fiber kind of slows things down. Well, which one do you need, if any, right? Another little tip I wanted to say as far as speeding things up and slowing things down is actually it is never advised to have carbonated drinks while you're eating. They interfere with that chemical process that is going on in your stomach with the acid doing its job, as well as water. I love water. But I naturally don't like to drink. My husband used to tease me about how I could just eat a meal without any liquid, any beverage with me. And he can't sit down and eat a meal without some form of beverage. And it's actually healthier to sip water throughout the day, but make sure that you're not guzzling your water while you are eating, because it is going to dilute those hydrochloric acid levels in your tummy. So, hey, if you're looking even to lose a little weight, slow down on the water guzzling or beverage guzzling while you're eating. And you may even want to consider, if you're having any digestive issues or discomfort at all, you may even want to considering not eating your carbohydrates along with your protein. Protein takes a whole lot longer to process. If you were to have 2 blenders on your counter and you would have some meat in the blender with some hydrochloric acid, and another blender, you're going to put some pasta in that blender with some hydrochloric acid, and you just start hitting blend or purify or puree on both of those blenders, it would be no shocker that really, really fast, those carbohydrates are going to be ready to be poured out. And you might take a little bit longer, a lot longer, to get the meats as solid as they are, dense as they are, to be pourable. So, think about that. If you're having any sort of digestive issues, definitely not eating your carbohydrates along with your proteins, because they have a different processing time in our tummies. Now, what if you are having some dysfunction and you're saying, you know what, my bowels don't look right? You can go onto my Instagram and my Facebook, and I think I have a poop chart pictured on there, and you can, save a copy of that on your phone. And the number 4 is pretty much what it should look like, kind of medium brown, in color, medium to dark brown in color, and like long and all in one piece, like a tube of poop. Sorry, I don't mean to sound crass or anything, but that definitely looks different than a handful of rabbit poop or stool coming out in just segments with, rough edges. Of course, you need to be definitely contacting your physician if your poop is like ribboned or has hard edges on the side. We can have some large intestine kind of issues, some issues with that. Or if your poop is black or tarry, then you need to let your doctor know about that. Or if you see bloody mucus or a lot of mucus in your stools. So let's just say you are having some dysfunction, whether it is burning or it is bloating an hour or 2 after eating, or even 2, 3, 4 hours after, if just under that belly button towards your pubic bone, if it's just feeling tight and compacted, or after you go to the bathroom, you feel like, man, I just don't feel like I was done. I don't feel like I was like emptied out. What's going on? There's a lot of things that could be going on. It could be as simple as you're not chewing enough. It could be as simple as your gut biome and your chemical your pH and acidic balance is off, and that your gut biome isn't right. You've got too much bad bacteria in there, or you have H. pylori, which loves a pH environment. Different. There's millions of different bacterias, or billions of them. But H. pylori is one that kind of slips in under the radar because we all have a little bit of H. pylori in our microbiome, but typically that acid is going to keep it at bay and make sure that it doesn't like form a colony and start taking over the joint, because when that happens, the acidic environment goes down and down, and you're susceptible for ulcers. And ulcers are you open your window of weakness into a whole bunch of other issues. So what if you are having, some of these dysfunctions, and you're saying, well, I am chewing my food pretty well, and I am choosing good food, and I am relaxing while I'm having lunch, and I am hydrating throughout the day, but I'm not waterlogging my foods, and even my macronutrients are good. I'm eating mostly fruits and vegetables, and I'm not eating massive amounts of proteins. I'm eating just a workable for my body amount of carbohydrates, and I'm still experiencing issues. Well, maybe you have some sort of deficiency. Maybe you're deficient in hydrochloric acid. Maybe you aren't eating enough healthy fats so that some of your digestive enzymes aren't being prompted at your car wash. So that's kind of where we start looking, is balancing out that microbiome. A couple different things that I would employ along with the other tips that I've given you, is maybe giving yourself some pre-digestive things to do, right? Squeezing some lemon in your water, helps to create more of an acidic environment, in your stomach throughout the day. One of many good things that I love about lemon. But also you can get some digestive bitters, and they do taste really bitter. Usually the Europeans have done it forever. And aperitif, if you've ever heard of it, aperitif, that's 2 F's. You just take like a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons about 10 or 20 minutes before you eat, and you'll feel it hit your belly, kind of like whiskey, down there, and it just kind of gets the pots stirring in preparation of that food. I always like probiotics in general. For people that are working through some gut issues. And there's a lot of different ones to choose from. If you like the pill form, I've really liked the Garden of Life probiotics. And they have a nice, healthy list. Like I said, there's billions of them. But lactobacillus and then the bifidobacterium all have under other bacterias, categorized under them. But these are kind of like a nice probiotic to start with. And So we can make sure that we have those in our food, with our foods, or before our foods and with our foods. And then afterwards, if you feel like maybe you want to like try out some digestive enzymes, they make these little chewable papaya enzymes, and I like the ones with the added chlorophyll. Just kind of a nice healing agent for your intestinal lining. And you just crunch up with 2 or 3 of these things, after you eat. There's different brands. This brand that I have right now, I'm not in love with, but I kind of